Detective.
After this, I'm gone.
Detective. No big surprise.
Detective!
You're looking for me.
And we're back. Hello everyone. My name is Rory Dunn. I'm joined by my co-host Tim Kaler. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good, Rory. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year.
You too?
This is the first time we've seen each other actually since it turned to 2017.
It is, yeah.
Wait, no, we had comedy show? Yes.
Yeah, I was at the Badger.
Yes,
Right.
you didn't perform, but
No.
you were there. Yes. So, for those of you who don't know, this is Welcome to The Show Must Go On. This is the podcast where Tim and I, we take movies that never got a sequel, prequel, or a spin-off, and we pitch those ideas.
Yeah.
And hopefully someday someone will listen to this and be like, that's a good idea. I'm going to pay these guys some money to buy that idea from them.
Or at the very least, even if they didn't hear it, a movie will come out and we'll be able to link it close enough to what we pitched and
Yeah.
be like, oh, you owe us money.
Yeah, we could sue. We're basically just vultures circling around the dead corpses of movies gone by.
Yeah.
And hoping that somebody one day we could just pick at that carcass a bit.
That's right.
Yeah. So last time we did Team America World Police. This was about a month ago.
Yes.
And we had a few votes on this one, guys.
Did we?
We did, actually.
Okay.
Do you have any guesses as to
Oh, you won.
Yes,
That's-
I won. Team America Civil War did win, yes.
It has been pointed out to me that whichever movie we pitch, or like whichever movie was our idea to do a sequel for, that's the one that we end up winning.
Well, so far we've only done 4 episodes, so
Fair enough.
It is starting to become a bit evident, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like you pitch the idea, and you've already been kind of
Right.
thinking about it a bit.
Right,
So,
right.
But this week I pitched the ideas, so I choose next episodes.
Right.
I actually haven't even thought of what will be this one. I've
Oh.
know the movie, but I'm just like going in completely blind. I haven't watched it in probably 10 plus years.
Okay.
So
The one we're doing for the next episode.
one we're doing for the next episode. What movie are we doing this episode though, Tim?
We did 7.
7, yes.
Yes.
So you chose this one.
I did.
Why? What really interested you to bring back 7?
Well, first off, it's such an iconic movie.
Yes.
Like, it was so dark. And in my memory, it was like one of the first movies that didn't have the typical Hollywood ending.
Yeah.
Like, where you expect that, I remember seeing it in the theater, and it was like when Mills is like, trying to decide what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You expect that he's not going to shoot him, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what Hollywood normally does.
No, it's always like, no, I'll take the higher road.
Yeah,
No, not
but
here.
no, he shoots him, and then it just kind of ends
Yeah.
with basically him being taken away, and the chief saying we'll take care of him, and Somerset saying he'll be around. He doesn't say he's not retiring, but
Yeah.
he says he'll be around, and so for me it was just such an iconic movie, and then also because the two main characters, their stories are just sort of left open.
Yeah.
Like so I've always sort of wondered like what would have happened to those guys afterwards. And so that's why, and also part of it too is I feel like even if they made the movie right now, because that movie's probably 25 years old, 20 years old.
About 20 years old, yeah.
Yeah. If they made a movie right now with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt as they are now, you could still have it be like
Lined up, yeah.
lined up now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that was why I picked that one.
All right, so it was your choice, so you get the first round, so tell me about your sequel, prequel, or spin-off to 7.
Okay, so my sequel is titled 4.
Okay.
And so David Mills, it sort of opens up with him, because in 7 it opens up with just Somerset getting ready.
Yeah.
So we open up with Mills. We see he's living in a small apartment. We also, during his getting ready routine, we see that he's got like a huge regiment of prescription medication that he's taking, and also the apartment that he's in is just very disheveled. It's like a tiny little apartment, and it's very disheveled and almost a state of squalor. Mm-hmm. And he's just, you can tell he's just sort of existing. and then we cut to Somerset. We can see he's moved out to the suburbs, and he's. It's sort of revealed to us through his opening sequence that he's working with the FBI.
Okay.
And then we can also kind of see that because in Seven he was just sort of, the whole world's a mess, whereas now we can kind of see that he's got some positive drive to him, like he's not feeling as hopeless as he was in Seven. And then Mills and Somerset meet for like a breakfast coffee kind of thing, and we get the feeling that this is a regular thing that the two of them do. And then while they're having their breakfast, Somerset is interrupted with a phone call telling him that there's something that he needs to attend to. And then Mills kind of says to him as he's getting up to go, he's like, "Oh, is this that Bible thing you're dealing with?" And Somerset's like, "Well, I can't discuss a ongoing investigation with you." And Mills is like, "Okay." So then it cuts to like the opening sequence, and in the opening sequence, it sort of gives us like a, like in Seven they showed us what John Doe was doing. In this, it's bringing us up to speed with what's happened. So it shows us how Mills was he wasn't really convicted of anything, because again at the end of the first one the cops are like, "We're going to take care of him." So he's tried, and but he's not convicted of anything, but he's also not working as a cop anymore. It kind of brings us up to show that he's just sort of living in his condition. And then we also see Somerset, how he's become this sort of celebrated FBI investigator who is still dealing with like the most heinous type crimes. But because he's got this unique mind, he's been solving all these crazy murders and stuff like that. And then, so then Somerset arrives on the murder scene that he's been called out to. And then as he's there, we're being brought up to speed with the person who's telling him, "Oh, this is what we found." And, they're relating it to other murders. So we're sort of brought up to speed that this has been like a long ongoing investigation that Somerset has been dealing with, where there's like a murderer, he's like a serial killer, and he's doing murders, keeping in line with, and then he's like leaving biblical references like on the scene somewhere. And this person who's doing the murders is claiming to be like he's God's messenger punishing people for their sins. So where like in Seven it was just trying to show people that there's these sins that people are doing, this one is more like directly like you're being punished for these sins. And then the scene that they go to, it's sort of like a Lindsay Lohan or Justin Bieber type of, and it's actually the people who are being murdered are like prominent people. It's not just because it's like very clearly like there's a message that's being delivered here. So, and in this scene, it's like someone who was like a child star, who had like gone off the rails, like Justin Bieber or Lindsay Lohan or something like that. And the scene is they've been like at the edge of a city, they've been stoned to death, and Somerset, of course, because he's the only one that finds the real clues kind of thing, right? He finds the reference to Deuteronomy 22:18-21, which references that if your child is disobedient, they have to be taken to the edge of the city and stoned.
You did research.
I did. So then, like we're also sort of realizing that like these murders that have been happening have been as a result of what like the Bible will say. These are the sins that the punishment for them is death. So it's like murder, adultery, bestiality, rape, gay sex, idols, witchcraft, taking the Lord's name in vain, cursing a parent, and disobeying a parent. So it's like we would see it's like people who like like the Lord's name in vain would be like some like either a comedian or some performer,
Yeah.
like a rapper or something like that, who swears a lot. And
Yeah.
it's like, and so he was murdered, and
Okay. Yeah.
so it's in that reference. So then, while Somerset is doing his investigations, it's always the only way that he interacts with Mills is on these like breakfasts. So then Somerset starts to reveal to Mills some of the details of the investigation, just because he's stumped.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's seen similarities to John Doe, but he's like, they're still kind of different because it's not running with like a very set theme. It's just like, aside from just like punishment for sins kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Somerset says that he can't find like a bigger connection besides the biblical references. And then Mills reveals to him that maybe the murderer thinks he's Death, which is the fourth horseman of the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, which is mentioned in Revelation. And so that like Death is charged with bringing punishment for people's sins.
Yeah.
So then Mills shares with him how after everything that happened in 7 finished, he had become obsessed with John Doe and started studying all about the 7 deadly sins and the apocalypse. And then like Mills sort of recalls about how Doe had said to him, like, you need to become wrath. Like you need, like, I'm God's messenger. You need to become wrath, and this is going to make you famous, kind of thing. So he's sort of revealing to Somerset how this sort of really stuck with him, and he's become sort of obsessed with this.
Yeah.
And then he also confesses that he was actually happy that he'd killed Doe. Because everyone sort of thought like, oh, well, it was a crime of passion. It was like temporary insanity thing. So that's why he didn't have to spend time in an insane asylum, or he didn't have to serve for his crime.
Yeah.
But he reveals that he was like, well, no, I wanted to kill him. And so I was happy that I did, and he deserved what he got, and I was just enforcing justice at that point.
Yeah.
So then as there's like other murders that are being discovered and Somerset's investigating them, Somerset then presents to his superior, Mills, as a potential suspect.
Okay.
But he wants to get Mills to confess to it because he's like, there's no way that we can link him to these murders, and the only way we can get a conviction is if he confesses to it. Mm-hmm. So he tells his superior that he's like, well, we can't arrest him and bring him in because he's too smart for that, and like he's like, I built up a trust, so I have to go to his apartment. You can have people like have the whole area mic'd and have snipers on site and stuff like that, and everyone ready. But that's how it's got to happen, and I've got to go in there and try and get him to confess to this. Yeah. So, of course, they agree to it. Somerset goes to his apartment, and the sniper's watching. So then Somerset goes there, and he sort of recounts to Mills about how Doe had manipulated him, and how he's sort of implying that Mills had been driven mad by what John Doe had done. And he was sort of saying, like, you've really become obsessed with, this fourth horseman of the apocalypse, and that you believe that you're completing God's work. And Mills is like passionately, denying this, and he's like, no, that's not what it is. Like, I haven't gone crazy. Like, I've been, researching all of this and stuff, but I'm not like, I'm just saying, like, maybe this person who's doing these murders thinks he's Death and everything. Mm-hmm. And then, so we can see in Mills that he's really sort of being emotionally tortured over having to relive the events of, that day out in the field. Yeah, yeah. So then Somerset sees Mills kind of subconsciously reaching for something that could be a weapon, not necessarily a gun, but just something that could be a weapon. So then he pulls out his gun, like Somerset pulls out his gun and points it at Mills to be like, whoa, like, I'm going to be taking you in here. Yeah. And then Mills looks at him and he's like pleading, like, well, why are you doing this? And then Somerset kind of reveals to him that he is actually Death.
Okay.
Because he feels that after Mills had been taken away, and he said, I'll be around, he'd sort of realized that what Doe was pointing out was what was wrong with the world, like what he felt had been feeling all along was what was wrong with the world.
Yeah.
And he believed that by seeing Mills kill Doe, because Mills was like he couldn't understand why he still had hope for everything, right? And he was like, that's the last symbol of hope for him that's now been destroyed. And so Doe revealed to him what his true purpose was, which was to bring punishment to the sinners of the world, and to be a hand in bringing on the apocalypse, kind of thing. And so now that Mills had confessed to him that he enjoyed killing Doe, that he was there to bring about his punishment. So then, after they hear this whole confession, we can hear sort of the SWAT like radioing to each other, like, well, now kind of like when they were flying around in the helicopter. Yeah. And, we hear them talking to each other, like what's going on and stuff. And they're like, what do we do? And they get the order to go in and take down Somerset. Yeah. So SWAT like storms the apartment to take down Somerset, and he turns to fire at the SWAT team coming in. Yeah. And then Mills tries to, jump up and stop it, but he's too late, and he sees his one last, what he thought was his true friend in the world, get gunned down by the police. And he's just, he's already in this horrible mental state, and he just sees Somerset fall to the floor, and like the last thing we see is just him get trucked off to a mental institution. He's like now just completely off the deep end. And then the end credits come in running sideways.
Okay.
'Cause remember they went top to bottom.
Bottom to top. Wait, no, top
that's
to bottom.
how they went top to bottom. So
anyways,
this time they come in sideways.
Okay.
So that's it.
All right. So 4, you chose 4 because of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Right, because it's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and death is the 4th horseman.
Okay, death is the 4th. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How long after the end of 7 do you imagine this taking place?
Like how it is now, like 20 years.
Okay.
Or however long it has been.
Yeah.
But that amount of time. Like Brad Pitt would be playing it as the age that he is now. Same with Somerset.
Yeah.
So he's a very high level FBI agent. And they're these murders would have been happening not for the entire time, not the entire 20-year span, but probably something like 5 to 10 years of it at least.
Okay.
Would be the span of time that these murders had been occurring. And it would have been the kind of thing where it's like it started off like with one isolated murder, and then, like a year or two later there was another one, and then of course it's slowly starting to ramp up.
Okay,
Yeah.
So why do you think Somerset admits it just to kill? Because he knows that, the SWAT's going to come in and kill me as soon as I say.
For me, see, and we were talking about this before the show, that this was a very hard sequel to do because 7 was so good.
Yes.
And it was like almost any idea you come up, which is almost a good thing that they haven't done a sequel.
Yeah.
Because almost any idea you come up with almost cheapens the original.
It's just like 7 itself is such a great movie, and I love Moulin Rouge, I love Zombieland, but it's such a great movie, and it's so smart that you're just like, okay, I need to have a great idea that is also smart.
Yeah, and I may not be smart enough to come up with why Somerset revealed. I like the idea because, for me, I like the idea that Somerset is the murderer, because in 7, he was just sort of like you can see him when he's like going to bed and he hears all the sound of the city, and you can tell he hates it, and he turns on his metronome to try and zone it out. Yeah. And when he's talking to Mills, like he's like, you really still think you can make good in the world? And then he relates to something like he there's a few times in the movie where he relates to some horrible thing that's just happened. And then like Mills makes the realization to him, like, where he's like, you think that you're quitting because because you feel this way, and he's like, but I think you feel this way because you're going to be quitting.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And then at the end, Somerset, he doesn't say he's not retiring. He just says, I'll be around.
Yes.
So it, like, to me, it really kind of gave it where it's like, well, and also because there was, I think there in, between Somerset and Mills in Seven, Mills despised Doe. Right. He thought you're a horrible person. There's something seriously wrong with you and you're going to pay for what you've done. Mm-hmm. Whereas Somerset, there was always some level of admiration. Yes. Almost like he liked, it was like he could almost see that he liked the care that Doe was putting into the work that he was doing and the research that he was doing and things because that's how Somerset was, right? Like he would put a lot of care and research into stuff. So,
and I think it was basically all the cops that were in the city. Because one of my favorite, like, just little moments is when they discovered the sloth victim, who was the pedophile, and California, who was played by Dr. Cox,
right? From Scrubs, right?
Yeah. He just leans in and he says, "You deserve it."
Yeah.
And to me, that's just like, oh, that's just the mindset of everyone who's in this city,
right? And
so I definitely see.
Well, and even like because when Somerset gets to the first murder, and they're like, oh yeah, it's crime of passion, blah blah blah, and then Somerset sees like the drawings like that the kid did on the thing, and he's like, did the kid see it? And the cops are like, well, who cares, right? Yeah. It's a murder. The wife did it. We're done. And it's like, whereas Somerset, you could tell that he was looking beyond just...
Yeah, Somerset is very smart, very intelligent, and he's been fighting it his entire time in the state to not fall into... But as he's entering his last week, he's just kind of giving into it. Yeah.
So for me, it like I really liked the idea of... Because it would be so easy to make... Mills, which is where I had started from, was that Mills became obsessed with this, and then he believed that he did take on wrath or death, and was living out his purpose. But I like the idea more of Somerset becoming the murderer, not because it was out of rage or anything else, but just because for him it just made sense. Yeah. So you're right. Him revealing that he is death doesn't make sense.
I think it can make sense in that he...
I think he has to reveal to Mills why he is going to kill him.
Yes.
Because for him, like the things that happen in Somerset's life happen for a reason. And there has to be a logical explanation. So the reason why he never felt that Mills had to pay for this is because it was like, well, clearly it wasn't a murder. You were reacting to, some extremely stressful stuff that had happened, right? Whereas once Mills had revealed to him, like, no, I wanted, like, that guy deserved to die, and I'm glad I did what I did, and I wanted to do that. So then it changes for Somerset, where it's like, well, now you have to be punished for your sin. So in order for him to do that, he has to reveal to Mills what he's going to do. The other end of it you could do is where he doesn't even bring the police there. And then he just, kills him, and then either just leaves that as another crime to be
and it kind of ends on him still being out there.
Being called in as so then he leaves, does his thing, and then gets a call. Oh, we've had another murder with a biblical reference somewhere. And he's like, oh, what is it? Is it murder? And they're like, yeah, how did you know? Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it could be something like that, which would be
a pretty good ending.
Better,
that would be, not like, I wouldn't say better, but I think both are good endings. But I really like the idea.
I think it fits more with how Seven ended.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it kind of goes against the Hollywood thing where now it's like the good guy Mills is killed, and the bad guy Somerset is still out there.
Yeah,
and for all we know, is still going to be allowed to just keep on murdering people because he's the one investigating his own murders.
Yeah. No,
So there you go. I changed my ending to that
Excellent. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here, and when we get back, I will be pitching my sequel.
Give me your gun. What's going on over there? Put the gun down. I saw you with the box. What was in the box?
Because I envy your normal life.
Put the gun down, David.
It seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box? Not till you give me the gun. What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
He just told you.
You lied! You're a fucking liar! Shut up! That's what he wants. He wants you to shoot him. No! You tell me that's not true. That's not true.
Become vengeance, David.
Ah, she's all right. You tell me.
Become wrath.
We're back. All right, so I am going to be pitching my sequel
Yes.
to Seven. Much like yours, it takes place in real time, so 22 years now later.
Right.
And mine is called 7 by 7.
Okay.
And the by is an X, so kind of 7 times 7 kind of thing. So we open on Somerset. He's just in his house. He's kind of like yours. He moved a bit to the suburbs. It's fairly a nicer home. It's fairly well put together, and he's just kind of typing away on his computer. And he hears something, and he grabs his gun because he's still kind of in that mindset. And he goes kind of looking around, but he doesn't find anything. And then he hears a knock at the door. And it's a police officer. It's a Detective Perry, and he's just like, I'm sorry to bother you. I know that you're retired, but there's something that you need to look at. And it's he convinces him to kind of come. He's pretty sure that it's a John Doe copycat case. Mm-hmm. So Somerset, he's a bit reluctant, but he goes anyways. He's just like, okay, it's a kind of a chapter in his life that he's never really closed. So he goes to this crime scene, and the first crime scene, it's kind of at a frat house, and it's 7 dead people.
Okay.
And they were all tied up, and they were all force-fed alcohol until they either drowned or they just get
Alcohol
killed.
poisoning.
Yeah, alcohol poisoning, basically. So he's taking and he's looking at it, and on the wall, written in blood, is wrath. So he's looking at it. It doesn't seem to really make much sense, and he's just like, I don't know if I really want to work on this or consult on it or anything. It's not what he wants to do anymore. But there's a huge media circus outside, because in the meantime, since this case has happened, it became just a huge case, like John Benet Ramsey, like any of those famous murder cases kind of thing. John Doe has just blown up. And Somerset has never touched any of it. He's refused interviews.
Oh, you're talking since 7.
Since 7, yes.
I see.
Sorry.
Okay.
So once there's word out there that there's like a copycat case, it's blowing up again. Excuse me, sorry. He doesn't want to do it, but while they're at this crime scene, they get called. There's another one that's already been discovered, same day. They start hanging out, and Somerset is like spied, and he's known as like the detective who worked on the first one.
Right.
And there's one specific reporter named Robin Karen who goes in after him and is like forceful with him, basically. And Somerset is just pissed off. He doesn't want to talk to him, and they take off to a different case. The next crime scene, it's at kind of a personal gym, like a very small, intimate gym area. And it was it's again 7 people. And this time it was a bunch of bodybuilders. Again, they were tied up, knocked out, and they had their muscles stitched together. They ripped apart, stitched together in different places. But again, on the wall, it's written wrath.
Okay.
So Somerset is just like, well, he's like, that first one was likely gluttony, alcoholism, something like that. This one seems like it's pride, but why is wrath written on the walls? So Detective Perry, he's like, well, your old partner was wrath, right? He's familiar with the case. So they decide to go visit Mills. Mills was convicted in this one. He was kind of made an example of because they didn't want a copycat. Vigilante justice. So they were kind of made an example of him instead. So he was sentenced to life in prison. And he's bitter. He's like very cold. He's very distant. And it's revealed that Somerset never actually started to try and reach out to him, but was basically cut off, and they haven't talked in 10 plus years. And they're very cold to one another. and he's asking him, "Do you have anything to do with this?" And of course, he's not giving anything away. He's like, he basically hates Somerset at this point.
So Mills is no longer in prison.
No, he still is in prison.
He is still okay.
Yes, still in prison, and he kind of is not. He's not a fan of Somerset. He doesn't want to talk to him, but they ask him some specific questions, and he kind of figures it out for himself. Oh, there's something happening. It's a copycat or something, and he asks for more detail, and Somerset gives it to him against Perry's advice. And Somerset and Mills is like, that's not John Doe's MO. That's not this. These are not about him. Look for a connection between these two. So later that night, Mills is home, and we have maybe I know that there weren't any in the original, but I was thinking like a dream sequence of him being haunted by memories of the first one. Wakes up, and he's being woken up by there's pounding at his door. He goes out there, and it's Rob and Karen again. And through their interaction here, it's kind of revealed that this reporter, Rob and Karen, became famous for this case, for his reporting.
The John Doe case.
The John Doe case, yes. For reporting on it and kind of exploiting it, exploiting like family members of the victims and all that. And from there on, so they kind of have it out on the front step, and he sends Robin away, furious, and he gets a phone call about another scene that's been discovered. Again, a media circus is around this one. This one is... Sorry, let me just double check my notes here. Oh, no, they don't go to a new one. Sorry. They discovered that all the wraths written in blood on the walls was not from any of the previously discovered victims.
Okay.
Instead, it matches someone else, a pedophile that was so they storm into, it's kind of like the Sloth, they storm into the apartment, and of course, then they find the new scene. At this one, it's 7 people, and they were all convicted pedophiles. And these ones, they had their genitals chopped off and shoved into their mouths.
Okay.
That's what I had fun writing these deaths. I got to be honest.
Well, and that's, I think, a typical, like, when you hear about like in prisons when they will kill a pedophile. That's like something that they'll do to them sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So I see you referenced in prison, so that might be a tip for what's happening here. But yeah, that's what they discover. And at this time, kind of, Detective Perry mentions that they found out, they did look for a connection between the other two, like crime scenes, and they discovered that many of those people were tried for crimes that they were not convicted of.
Oh, okay.
So Perry says, they kind of got what they deserved. And Somerset is furious at this. He's not having any of it. He's like, no, these people don't deserve death no matter what. And he quits the case. He's just like, no, I'm not coming in for this anymore. And so he goes home, and when he gets home, he finds that it's been broken into. So he takes out his gun, he starts looking around, and there's someone there. They pull a gun at him, Somerset shoots them, and goes over, and it's someone he recognizes. It's a young woman he kind of recognizes, and she dies. And he looks up, and she was writing envy on his wall in blood. And then he looks at her again, and he's trying to figure out, and he remembers it was a photographer for Rob and Karen.
Okay.
So he calls it in, and they decide, okay, we gotta find Rob and Karen. He's most likely our guy. They go to their like little building that they've been working out of. Boom, clap, crime scene. It's not Rob and Karen. He and 7 of his protégés, co-workers, are all dead, and they've been cut open, and they are stuffed with copies and pages from the book that he written and made huge amounts of money of from John Doe. And at this point, they're like, okay, they discover they finally figure out that all of the people who were previously tried for crimes, it was in Mill's old district that he moved
Oh,
from.
when he transferred.
Yes, and he was the one who caught them all, but he didn't get the conviction, all of them.
Okay.
So they're just like, that's it. It's Mills. He's controlling this from prison. So they get him transferred. They're just like, okay, go get him transferred to here. We can interview him and stuff. So they transfer him over. But while this is happening, Somerset, he goes back home. He locks up. He lies down for a rest, but something is not sitting quite right with him. And he starts looking through old John Doe files, and he finds, from a piece of evidence, one of the books that John Doe was going through, like just photos of it, but he's looking at the handwriting, and it looks strangely familiar. And he realizes that it's Detective Perry's handwriting.
Okay.
And he rushes,
not in all the books, just
little bits of it. Okay. And he rushes over to the police station, and when he gets there, they have Mills. They're about to kill him, and it's realized that it's the cops. It's not just Perry, but he's kind of formed a bit of a cult, and it's revealed that he's John Doe's brother.
Okay.
Yes. And so he's kind of built a bit of a cult around, because that's what John Doe was saying. There's going to be a cult. I'm going to start a revolution, kind of thing.
Right.
And his brother has decided to make that happen. He's decided that now is the time, and he's brought all these cops in. They're just fed up with the world, kind of like yours was, where Somerset started getting fed up. It's just a whole bunch of them. But Somerset points out that, well, you're not doing your brother's work. What you're doing is revenge. You are becoming wrath. You are becoming just to get revenge on Mills for killing your brother. And as he's talking, some of the other cops, they're just not sure what to do at this point, because they really thought that Somerset was going to be with them once it was revealed, like, oh, it's just going to be all these criminals that are dying and everything. So when he kind of points out that, you guys aren't doing good things. You're just feeding this egomaniac's purpose. You're just getting revenge for him. So there's kind of a breakdown in communication between all the cops, and some of them go to call it all in, and Detective Perry, kills Mills just right there. Mills gets killed.
Okay.
Yeah, and Perry gets killed by some of the cops, and it's just kind of hell breaks loose. And when all said is done, there's a few dead cops. Somerset had taken hiding, and he goes over to Mills' body, and he just kind of bends down to it, and that's where we kind of end. Just a SWAT team will come in to kind of where this area is. There's dead cops, and Somerset is just there looking around at what has befallen all of them.
I like it. I like how both of our ideas came from very different takes on it.
Yes.
Right? Because my idea was, or at least where I know I felt like where I was focused on was like, okay, I want to see exactly what happens to Mills and Somerset after this, and their sort of relationship with each other. And yours feels like, even though it is still about Mills and Somerset, it's also more like it's like an extension of the story. It's sort of like, how like the Hardy Boys stories, how it's like there's the Hardy Boys, but it's always like other cases that happen. And so it was sort of felt like that, where it's like, okay, yeah, it's still Somerset and Mills are involved in this, but it's like it's the murders that are the story.
Yes.
More like sort of how Seven was, where it's like...
Yeah, and I kind of wanted an extension of John Doe himself.
Yeah, and that's how I was going to say too, is it's like you extended John Doe into the sequel. Yeah. Yeah, which... I just think it's neat how we both came from very different views on it.
I found it interesting how we both decide, we'll have a police officer, someone in charge, be like, John Doe was right. And I think that was something we both kind of tapped into. That was kind of in Seven. There was a bit of sympathy, and we just kind of emphasize that a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I would say at the beginning when you got Somerset on his computer,
Yeah.
it should still be a typewriter.
Yes, that actually would.
Yeah,
I thought it would be funny if he was just kind of playfully typing with it like an old person does.
Yeah.
But
because even in 7, like everyone had computers except for him. He was still typing out his reports.
Well, the reason I had started that was because it was kind of a leftover of original idea I've had where he was going to be someone who wrote stories and kind of took it. But then I kind of abandoned that and I forgot to leave.
I started with that idea too, that Somerset was the one that wrote like a book. In mine, it was almost more like a textbook.
Yeah.
Like in how to solve crimes kind of thing. But then I was like, well, no, he wouldn't have done that.
No,
like,
he definitely not. Once you got to think about it, he's just like, no, he doesn't. He wouldn't have done that. No.
That's why this was, I know we already mentioned it, this was such a hard sequel to do.
Such a hard sequel.
Because you sit there and you're like, well, yeah, Mills does it because he just becomes Wrath. And then as you start going down where that takes you, it's like, well, no, that just seems too cheap. It's too easy. It's not, that's not what it would be. And then it's like, and then if you try and be, oh, well, Somerset would have become like, he would have retired and written a book and blah. It's like, well, no, he wouldn't have done that either. Yeah. And it's like, the typical sequel tropes were just too cheap.
Yeah, because 7 is so anti-typical trope.
Right.
It's just anti-trope in general.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact that they show us at the beginning of the movie all the stuff that John Doe did.
Yeah.
Right? Like they show like the shaving off his fingerprints and writing out his books and everything. Like they show you right at the beginning of the movie. Like they show like all the photo, like basically all the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And it's like, yeah, I know. It's such a good movie.
It's such a good movie.
I do like, actually, this is one of those times where I'm like, well, I kind of like both of our ideas.
Yeah, I think this is a very equal episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we'll see if Rory's mom votes for him or for me.
My mom has to learn how to turn the computer back on.
Oh, wait, I thought
she
first
did,
episode...
but the computer got shut off in the meantime. So we'll see if she found the power button today. Right. So if you want to vote for which sequel you would like to see, either 4 or 7x7, you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/ShowGoPodcast. You can also, if you have any feedback or ideas for us, you can email us at showgopodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on SoundCloud, Twitter, ShowGoPodcast. And that will be posting the poll at the same day as this episode airs, and you can vote for which one you'd like.
Now,
and
what's our next one?
Our next one, this one will be fun. As I said before, I don't think I've seen this movie in probably 10 plus years, but I loved it when I was a teenager, and I feel like in the world where we have so many superhero movies, we need to see Mystery Men again.
Oh, I did like that movie.
I did. It is based on a comic book, which I didn't know originally. But yeah, I really liked Mystery Men when it came out. Yeah. And you know what? I think after so much saturation, we need a bit of a parody of it that's not superhero movie.
Yeah, that is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so next episode we'll be doing Mystery Men. We'd like to thank our producer, John Hill, and thank you guys for listening.